I took lunch to my fiance's office, but his secretary stopped me. "Excuse me, miss, who are you looking for?" "Do you have an appointment?" The surrounding staff giggled behind their hands. No one stood up for me. I took out my phone and called. The HR director fired Tasha Carter from her position immediately. Her eyes turned red as she ran off to tattle. Arthur Miller turned to me and scolded, "Tasha didn't know who you were. You could have just said something. Why are you so petty?" I let out a cold laugh. "I'm wearing our company's key design for this season, a one-of-a-kind piece." She didn't recognize it. If she's not blind, she's an idiot. Arthur Miller, my fiancé, heard this, glanced at Tasha Carter, and she flushed with red eyes, apologizing to me. "I'm so sorry, Miss Miller. It was my fault. Please don't fire me. I really need this job." I sat on the sofa, giving her a look of disdain. She had her backing. She said sorry to me, but her eyes were glued to Arthur Miller, and she even looked at me with provocation. Arthur Miller frowned. "Holly, she's new and doesn't know the ropes. Why are you so nitpicky? You go on ahead." "Holly!" "Won't blame you." Tasha Carter nodded repeatedly, and as she turned to leave, she looked back and laughed provocatively at me. Suddenly, I found it all ridiculous. Arthur Miller has changed. His secretary should have known the company's designs inside and out. You could call her a jack of all trades, but now he had a newcomer in such an important position. Not to mention, the employees throughout the company tacitly accepted Tasha Carter's presence. Even me, the future boss's fiancée, they didn't show an ounce of respect. It seemed that Arthur Miller had given her the confidence to do it, even tolerating her insulting me, seeing me stay silent. Arthur Miller patted the back of my hand. "Lately you've been so quick-tempered, wanting to fire someone over a small matter. Why don't you order some afternoon tea later to comfort Tasha a bit?" The poor girl was scared. Hearing this, I was so furious I laughed. Sure enough, a man's favoritism is the most disgusting thing. I stood up and walked closer to him, dumping the lunchbox directly on his face. Then I grabbed the crystal nameplate on his desk and slammed it down hard. Arthur Miller yelled out in pain, looked up at me with a face full of disbelief, and roared, "Holly Miller, are you insane?" I pulled out a tissue, wiped my hands, and calmly said, "I'd have to be insane to let you trample all over me and be so arrogant. Arthur Miller, you go play with your little girl. I'm not in the business of serving you anymore. We have a generational gap anyway," I said, and then kicked the door open and left. Tasha Carter, standing outside the door, witnessed it all and let out a piercing scream. Facing my ice-cold gaze, she was so scared she couldn't say a word. I walked away in my high heels with an air of authority, went straight to my father, and proposed breaking off the engagement dot as expected. He slapped me hard. "Holly Miller, what's wrong with you? We're engaged and you want to break it off. What will the Miller family think? Not to mention our two families are bound together in so many ways. We can't just break up like this." I laughed lightly. "So I have to swallow a rotten cucumber? Is he cheating on me?" I hesitated, not completely sure, but with his personality, even if it wasn't a physical affair, his heart had already strayed. More importantly, he was protecting that secretary. My father sighed. "All men are like this. As long as you are his wife, that's all that matters. You have to remember that our family's marriage isn't just about the two of you. Wait a few more days, I'll put a little pressure on him and everything will pass." I knew it was pointless to say more. Men are all the same, unable to control their lower half and expecting women to endure it. My mother tolerated him her whole life. Did he want me to become a resentful wife too? I couldn't do it. Leaving the study, the butler told me that Arthur Miller had arrived. I had originally planned not to see him, but my father said, "Let him in." And I want to talk to him. Arthur Miller had changed into different clothes. When he saw me, his expression was cold, but when he saw my swollen red face, he froze. "Holly." I turned and walked away. Since I couldn't get through to my father, I would find another way. The night in the city was bright with lights, but inside the club, there was only me and her. Ashley Miller looked at me, a hint of disdain flashing in her eyes. "The Miller. Family is decided by me. Why don't you go tell Arthur Miller yourself that you want to break up with him? I heard you were going to marry Blake Peterson to be a stepping stone for Arthur Miller, so he could climb to the top." She frowned at me. "You're both two sides of the same coin, aren't you? What if I told you I could help you escape this fate?" "Ashley." Miller laughed scornfully. "Holly Miller, you can't even control your own life, and you came to save me." Hearing that, I took out a stack of documents and pushed them across. When she saw the contents clearly, her eyes lit up immediately, and then she asked seriously, "How reliable is this? If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. I can only tell you that this is the truth I found using all my connections." After a few seconds of silence, Ashley Miller spoke. "How do you want me to cooperate?" I smiled. "Now, that's what I call a partner." When I left the club, it was already past 9 p.m. Ashley Miller left with a male model arm in arm. A young male model was beside me. He tilted his head and asked, "Sister, where are we going now?" I was about to answer when I heard an angry voice. "Holly, are you breaking off our engagement for this kid?" I turned around and faced the furious face of Arthur Miller. I couldn't help but sigh. What bad luck. Tasha Carter was also by his side. Hearing this, Tasha Carter covered her mouth in an exaggerated way. "What are you doing, girl?" I looked up and glanced at her, my sharp gaze making her shrink back and hide behind Arthur Miller. The guy beside me laughed mockingly. The guy next to her has enough wrinkles to kill a fly. "It's late at night, don't stay out. Drink some herbal tea for your health." Arthur Miller's face immediately fell. I patted the young male model's shoulder, motioning for him to go first. "See you next time." Right in front of Arthur Miller, I exchanged contact information with him, and he winked at me. "See you later, sister." I didn't care about anyone else, just interacted with him. I was about to get in my car when Arthur Miller couldn't take it anymore and grabbed my wrist. What's the meaning of this? "You see? I'm just going out to have some fun." "It's just a show. Why are you so nervous?" Hearing that, his expression softened considerably. Tasha Carter didn't expect Arthur Miller, who had been full of anger moments ago, to calm down with just a few words from me. She quickly interjected, still the same, "Miss, you need to hold your tongue. Arthur Miller, your secretary is truly out of line. I am Holly Miller. I don't have a younger sister, remember that?" Hearing this, Tasha Carter's eyes immediately turned red. I looked at her with disdain. "You can't even handle a little bit of pressure as a secretary? Arthur Miller, your family put their full support behind you. You wouldn't choose someone so useless. From now on, if anything related to business comes up, do not bring her out and embarrass yourself." After I finished, I turned and walked away, but Arthur Miller still held me tightly. "I'll take you home." "No need. I'll drive myself. Have the chauffeur take her home." He gave his car keys to the chauffeur behind him and pulled me into his car. The moment he opened the passenger side door, I was so furious I laughed. Arthur Miller followed my gaze and saw the passenger seat covered in cartoon stickers. His face immediately darkened. I slammed the car door shut, grabbed the keys from the chauffeur, and walked straight to my car. The car's exhaust blew straight into Arthur Miller's face. Yet, he still chased after me, regardless of the consequences. My phone was nearly bursting with his calls. When I stopped at a red light, he stood outside the car window and yelled, "Holly!" I didn't answer him. Chasing on the highway is extremely dangerous. As soon as the light turned green, I stepped on the gas and sped away. He still didn't show any fear and continued to follow closely, cornering my car. Without a word, I immediately called the traffic police to report him. At the next intersection, he was stopped. Seeing the police, Arthur Miller's face turned green. World was finally quiet again. The news of Arthur Miller being stopped by traffic police in his luxury car spread everywhere, even making it onto the hot search. His identity was also dug up. Mr. Miller was furious. ordering Arthur Miller to apologize publicly. In reality, if both sides hadn't made a big deal of it, nothing would have happened. With time, people would have forgotten, especially since it was just a car chase. If I hadn't pursued it, it would have been over. Who would have known he would go to Ashley Miller and ask her to handle the media? Arthur Miller was too arrogant to apologize publicly, so the chance to apologize fell into Ashley Miller's hands. Ashley Miller, however, took a different approach. She went on, proactively apologizing on behalf of Arthur Miller, saying he shouldn't have driven recklessly or disregarded public safety, which drove Arthur Miller crazy with anger. They had a huge argument, which, of course, happened later. What surprised me was that even now, Tasha Carter still dared to send me a friend request on social media. Looking at her friend request avatar, I burst out laughing. This little secretary really didn't know when to quit. I didn't respond, but she still persisted. Girl, if you're smart, you'll break up with the CEO of the company. You're not worthy of him. You're 30 years old. In a few more years, you'll be going through menopause. Can you still have children for him? Are you too guilty to accept my friend request? Don't think your engagement makes you so great. The CEO of the company has already put a property in my name. He said as long as I'm a good girl by his side, he'll fulfill all my wishes. Do you believe that? For your birthday this year, if I just make a phone call, he'll come right back to me. Seeing these messages, an idea came to me. I directly accepted her friend request, which made Tasha Carter ecstatic. She immediately sent me a series of voice messages and photos. In reality, Arthur Miller and she hadn't gotten that far. It was just a bit of a flirtation. I knew this, but the pictures she sent were very suggestive. I admitted that Tasha Carter was the pure, pretty type men would easily fall for her. But desire and reason are the basic standards for a successful person. It was clear that Arthur Miller lacked the capability. I saved all the pictures and just sent her one message. The two families' alliance is moving ahead quickly. If you're so good, tell Arthur Miller to break off the engagement. I told you. He won't. What can you do? Tasha Carter was furious and didn't message back, but I was sure she would make a move on Arthur Miller. It was good. As long as I could escape Arthur Miller, using Tasha Carter a little bit was fine. The news on the hot search was quickly suppressed. The Miller family had spent a lot of money. Ashley Miller laughed so hard she couldn't breathe when she told me about it. The old man told him not to cause any more trouble and ordered him to apologize to you. He was also suspended from his job, and now I'm in charge of everything. He even bought you a gift. You've really profited from this, you rascal. After listening, I just laughed coldly. Do you believe me? That gift will never get to me. Want to bet on the West Bank project? No problem, she agreed instantly. 2 days later was my birthday. Arthur Miller invited me to dinner but was 40 minutes late. When he finally arrived, he was still carrying the scent of his sweet perfume. Right then, Tasha Carter posted a story that was only visible to me. My man bought me a gift. It's too bad the old lady's birthday is today. He still has to go over there. Within 10 minutes, he'll be back with me. Tasha Carter was wearing a low-cut, revealing dress. The background was a hotel room. In front of her was a box, and inside was the gift that was supposed to be for me. I had once told Arthur Miller that I liked sapphire necklaces. He had even boasted, if you like it, just buy it. But now that necklace was in Tasha Carter's hands. She messaged again. Old lady, Arthur Miller said I'm the one he loves the most. You should get out of the way. I took a screenshot and sent it to Arthur Miller. You better handle your little canary properly. Arthur Miller, break off. The engagement. This time, I mean it. Arthur Miller didn't reply. I sent Tasha Carter's post to Ashley Miller, who immediately messaged back, did you really give it to her? Yes. If I remember correctly, this brand is a long-term partner of your company. This product line is called Eternal Love, You Lose. Ashley Miller. Damn it, Arthur Miller is a pig-headed fool. Remember to give me the West Bank project? I put my phone away. Arthur Miller arrived, sat down, and immediately apologized. I was stuck in traffic. Happy birthday, honey. He gave me a box. I looked at the streetlights outside the window and couldn't help but laugh coldly. You're a good actor. Open it. Do you like it? I opened the box, and inside was a sparkling baby pink rhinestone hair clip. Did Tasha Carter pick this out? He froze for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, she said as a woman she could help me pick something out. What do you think? I don't like rhinestones. Arthur Miller's face sank. I'll pick something else next time. Don't be mad. She only had good intentions. It seemed he hadn't read my messages at all. Oh well, I didn't say anything, just quietly cut my steak. Not long after, his phone rang. He answered, and Tasha Carter's crying voice came from the other end. Arthur Miller, the pipe burst. I'm all wet, and the hotel reception won't help me. Please come quickly. Okay, I'm on my way. He hung up and stood to leave, then remembered something and turned to look at me. Holly, I'll be back later. I didn't look up. If it's an emergency, just go. My attitude must have been too calm because he wanted to say something but didn't. He finally left. Immediately after, my phone lit up. It was a message from Tasha Carter. How was it? See? I wasn't wrong. I'll admit you're good. But do you have the ability to make him break up with me? It's one thing to make him come running with a call, but it takes real guts to make the whole Miller family agree. After I sent that message, she was silent and didn't reply anymore. Very quickly, I saw Tasha Carter post another picture. It was of Arthur Miller hugging her while she was soaking wet, and they were kissing. She was clearly trying to provoke me with that picture. I laughed, saved the picture, and put all the pictures of Arthur Miller and Tasha Carter together into an album. Then I sent an email to Arthur Miller and all the company's shareholders with the message, if you don't break off the engagement, this will be in the news tomorrow. I didn't believe they could stand it. The truth proved that the Miller family was truly shameless. Ashley Miller called me, laughing so hard she couldn't breathe. Holly, you don't know this, but the old man was so angry his face was as red as a liver. When he got home, he beat Arthur Miller and made him apologize to you. He also temporarily suspended him from work, and now I'm in charge of everything. I breathed a sigh of relief. Then you have to seize the opportunity. Although the West Bank project was given to me, I still need your help. Let's continue to cooperate as before. Just wait. After the engagement is broken, I'll buy you a round of drinks. As soon as the call ended, Mr. Miller brought Arthur Miller to my house. When he saw me, Mr. Miller no longer showed the same contempt as before. He directly handed me a share transfer agreement. This time, Arthur Miller was too reckless. Holly! Our two families understand each other well. This marriage is urgent and can't be canceled. He was wrong. He was seduced by that woman. You can hit and scold him all you want. Now get down on your knees and apologize to her. Arthur Miller stiffened his neck, refusing to kneel. In the next second, his old man kicked him hard in the knee, forcing him to kneel. Seeing that scene, I just laughed coldly. In fact, Arthur Miller looked terrible. Just as the handsome male model said the other day, his eyes were full of wrinkles. Arthur Miller and I are the same age. A 30-year-old woman is like a fragrant, charming, and attractive flower. A 30-year-old man who doesn't take care of himself and hangs out with women is left with only dark circles under his eyes and a body drained by lust. Looking at Arthur Miller's appearance now, I suddenly felt a sense of relief. Mr. Miller, I want 10%. Otherwise, I'll make everything public immediately. What did you say? Don't get greedy. Arthur Miller immediately stood up. Holly Miller, you're too greedy. You're not even married yet, and you're asking for so many shares. What if it's just 10%? Are you afraid I'll steal your position? My words silenced him. Mr. Miller was still hesitating, so I continued. In the share transfer agreement, you can add a condition. Even if I leave the Miller Company, the shares will remain. I won't take a cent. I just want to keep a way out for myself so that The next time Arthur Miller cheats, he'll remember the price he had to pay today. Mr. Miller finally agreed. I got 10% of the shares, and later I could sell them. To Ashley Miller, let the two siblings fight for their lives, and all I needed was money. Tasha Carter was anxious. When she heard that the Miller family had given me shares, she couldn't sit still and immediately asked to meet me. I dressed up and went to the agreed-upon place. As soon as she saw me, Tasha Carter looked furious. "You're proud of yourself, aren't you?" "Holly Miller, if we had started at the same place, Arthur Miller would never have looked at you again." I laughed lightly. "Do you know? In this city, there's no shortage of young, rich ladies like you. Do you know why the Miller family chose me?" Tasha Carter was silent, so I tapped the table. "Because in this city, the only person who can help the Miller family rise to a higher class is my family. You're beautiful, but you're too young and too much of a player. The older people have less assets than the Miller family. Only I am compatible with Arthur Miller, so the Miller family needs a match, not someone like you." I lifted her chin. "You are indeed beautiful and young, but besides those two things, you are worthless. Little girl, do you understand?" Her face immediately turned pale, and I just slightly curved my lips into a smile. In reality, I didn't want to say much to her, but since she insisted on meeting me, I had to expose everything to her. "I don't care who Arthur Miller is. I only care about the benefits from the marriage alliance between our two families." She couldn't hold it in and screamed, "You see him as a tool." I didn't bother to deny it. "So what? You're no different. If you weren't, why would you cling to him? I'm 30 years old, but a 30-year-old woman with money is far more attractive than a penniless girl in her 20s. I lightly patted her face, my nails digging into her cheek, making her cry in pain. "The next time you want to provoke me, think carefully about who you're dealing with. I'm not always this easygoing. If you can't make Arthur Miller marry you, don't bother me. I'm very busy." After that, for a whole month, Tasha Carter didn't dare to look for me. Neither did Arthur Miller. Perhaps because I demanded too much from the Miller family, Arthur Miller decided to play the silent treatment game to force me to give in. As for me, I found it very peaceful and relaxed. A month later, news broke that Tasha Carter was pregnant. She publicly announced the happy news on social media. Ashley Miller also called me. The old man has softened and agreed to keep the child, but not the mother. I don't want to raise someone else's child. Let's just lay our cards on the table. In the past few months, Ashley Miller had been quietly building her own power, gradually eliminating all the cronies Arthur Miller had installed. Now she had full control. The project she was in charge of had also tripled its profits, making Mr. Miller look at her in a new light. Currently, Ashley Miller had a voice in the upper echelons of the Miller family, and I also began to prepare to come forward. Thinking about this, I took the 10% share contract, the project contract, and the next plan and walked into the study. I spread out the stack of documents with the sole purpose of breaking off the engagement. My father looked at the documents in front of him and couldn't help but frown. "Do you really want to break off the engagement? It's just a little homewrecker. It's not that hard to deal with her." The assets of the Miller family still need to rely on the cooperation of both sides to develop. Although you brought these things, it's still not enough. I smiled. "A branch company? I've already started planning it. I've also managed to contact the Andre family in Europe. My abilities match my ambitions. What I bring back to you is more than a marriage alliance. Dad, I have money and ability. What kind of man can I get?" Breaking off the engagement with him, the cooperation with the Miller family will still continue. And with Ashley Miller, the West Bank project is something we are both pushing for. Besides, she has already given me 1%. Just 1% is enough for me to climb to a new level. Whether I'm with Arthur Miller or not, it won't make a difference. Then why don't you choose a man who will never betray you? Hearing me say this, my father hesitated but finally tacitly agreed. The news of the engagement being broken off reached the Miller family. Mr. Miller was furious. He didn't expect my family to actually take the initiative to propose breaking off the engagement, and it had only been a month since Arthur Miller apologized. He and Mrs. Miller came to my house to talk directly. I didn't say much immediately. Took out Tasha Carter's ultrasound photo and pushed it in front of them. I won't eat pre-cooked rice. Before marriage, he's already secretly keeping mistresses, and even has an illegitimate child. My family is not so shameless. I'm not a soft-hearted person either. If that child falls into my hands, who knows if I'll strangle it. Hearing me say that, the two of them immediately swallowed back what they were about to say. My father spoke up. I don't interfere with the young people's affairs, but the child should not suffer. Mrs. Miller was impatient, but we already agreed that the cooperation between our two families cannot be interrupted. Now that the engagement is broken, we need to clarify the project and the profit distribution. I smiled brightly and looked at her. The project will of course not stop. Ashley Miller and I will become long-term partners. Hearing that, she immediately got angry. How can that be? How can she compare to Arthur Miller? Our son is a man. I shrugged. But the disasters Arthur Miller caused are not few. His ability is obvious to everyone. The projects he was in charge of were all brought in by me. The projects he managed himself all ended up with losses and even resulted in a fatality. Ashley Miller is different. Even if she's a woman, keeping the child and getting rid of the father is fine. After all, you have experience with that, don't you? Hearing my sarcasm, Mrs. Miller panicked, but she was speechless. Ashley Miller was the daughter of the first wife. After her biological mother passed away, Mr. Miller married Mrs. Miller and had Arthur Miller. The two sides already disliked each other, and now it was clear they wanted to kick Arthur Miller out of the game. Plus, I was no longer helping, so how could she not be anxious? Besides, what kind of person was Arthur Miller? As his mother, how could she not know? In contrast, Mr. Miller was very relaxed. Since she was still a part of the Miller family, he had no objections at all, and almost immediately nodded in agreement. Mrs. Miller was about to speak, but he roared, "Enough. Look at the good son you raised. He's already in trouble and now he's getting involved with a mistress." Mrs. Miller clenched her hands, her face pale with anger. I smiled and looked at him. Although the engagement is broken, I said before that, even if I leave, those shares will stay in the Miller family. So I've already transferred the 10% to Ashley Miller. Mrs. Miller immediately flew into a rage, pointing at me. "Holly Miller, how dare you? That's my son's." "That's the Miller family's assets. How can it be your son's alone?" "Mr. Miller, I didn't know your wife was so ambitious about dividing up the assets, even though the person is still alive." Mr. Miller looked at her with displeasure, and Mrs. Miller stammered, unable to say anything. "Let's stop bothering you for today. We'll do as you said." They arrived in a huff and left in a huff. I watched their backs and messaged Ashley Miller that she would have to face her family's wrath when she got home. But I thought that if she couldn't even handle her future mother-in-law, she wasn't worthy of standing firm in the Miller family. I was now supporting Ashley Miller. Arthur Miller finally realized he had completely lost his footing at the company and became anxious. He looked for me, but I was already supervising the construction project in West Bank and wasn't free to see him. It wasn't until my father called that I learned Arthur Miller had been waiting for me at the company for days. With no other choice, I made time to go back dot as soon as he saw me. Arthur Miller ran over. "Holly!" He was holding a bouquet of vibrant red roses. Looking at those thorny roses, I just laughed softly. We had been together for 4 years, and the only flowers Arthur Miller had ever given me were lily or yellow roses. This was the first time for vibrant red roses. "Thank you." I took the flowers and led him into a coffee shop, not allowing him to enter the company building. Seeing this, his face immediately fell. "Holly, I didn't expect to hurt you so deeply." "I know you can't accept it, so I'll tell Tasha Carter to get rid of the baby. From now on, there will be nothing standing between us. Don't be mad anymore. Come back to me, okay?" Hearing him say that, I found it truly laughable. We had known each other for so many years, And this was the first time Arthur Miller had spoken to me so gently. Before, he was always arrogant. Even when he was patient with me, it was only a little, and he would always use work as an excuse to avoid me. But today, for him to take the initiative to humble himself like this was truly the first time. Sweet words meant nothing to me. Tasha Carter doesn't want to break up with you. I held up my phone. You say you want her to get an abortion, but she's already in a private hospital for prenatal care. The best maternity center has also been booked. The baby in her belly is the Miller family's first grandson. Do you really think you can just tell her to get rid of it? Will your mother agree? Hearing that, his face turned pale. I laughed lightly. In fact, you don't need to come looking for me. You know that. I've always looked down on men who live off women like you. Arthur Miller immediately stood up. Holly Miller, what are you saying? Am I wrong? At home, you live off your older sister. Outside, you cling to me. If it wasn't for the plans I wrote for you at the company, would you have been able to sit in that chair so easily? Without my help, you'd fall in a month. You still don't get it. Do you know why your father didn't choose you to be his successor? Because you have no ability. Those young girls don't see it. They think your outward appearance is your true self, but in reality, you're just a lump of mud. Everyone knows what methods your mother used to get that position back then. Arthur Miller's intelligence is not worthy of the position he has. Arthur. Miller's face turned red from my scolding. Holly Miller, you always stand so high above everything. The things I've struggled to understand, you can clear them up with a single sentence. Everyone in the company says you're my inside man, that as long as you guide me, I'll never go wrong. But why am I the man? You're a man, but you have no responsibility and no loyalty. You're only apologizing now because you've lost your support and can't hold on anymore. I bet your mother told you to come find me, didn't she? Arthur Miller, let's stop here. If you keep bothering me, I'll make your affair public. Hearing me say that, he was filled with angry shame. I waved my hand, telling him to get lost. Arthur Miller was not convinced. Holly Miller, you'll regret this. An old woman like you will never get married. Just as he finished, a male model walked up from a distance, the same one I had met that night. Lately, I had been busy dealing with those people, so I only had free time today. He walked toward me, gave me a bouquet of vibrant sunflowers, and put his arm around my shoulder. I turned my head to look at Arthur Miller, and his face immediately turned green. You two ... I leaned against the guy's embrace and said to Arthur Miller, this young man has a great body and is in good shape. He's much stronger than you. After I finished, he and I walked away together. Behind us, Arthur Miller's desperate scream echoed. Holly Miller, you've gone too far. I laughed coldly. This is too much. There are many more tricks waiting for you later. Ashley Miller quickly took back all the power from his hands. She even exposed how Arthur Miller embezzled company funds and took commissions, even harming the internal affairs. Mr. Miller was so angry he beat him badly and took back all his shares. Mrs. Miller was not willing to accept it and argued endlessly. But Ashley Miller silenced her with one sentence. If you keep making trouble, I'll cut off your profit money. Tasha Carter is still out there expecting a child. Mrs. Miller immediately fell silent when Ashley Miller invited me for a drink. She let out a sigh of relief. I never thought I would feel so relaxed today. You don't know this, but seeing those two mother and son angry and helpless is so funny. I didn't want to confront them in the first place, but they pushed me too far. I patted her shoulder. Okay, they say women who get angry often get old faster. Don't bother with them. A woman who climbed up using tricks like her doesn't have much ability. In the future, you'll have to rely on yourself. Let's put the Arthur Miller matter aside. We still have to live our lives. The two of us smiled at each other, each with a male model, when Arthur Miller suddenly appeared. This time, he looked extremely haggard. The moment he saw me, he rushed to me and yelled angrily. I knew you two had been working together from the start, planning to team up and push me out, didn't you? Ashley Miller, you're just a woman. What makes you think you can compete with me? Ashley Miller turned to me and laughed bitterly. I'm sorry you have to witness this joke. Then she stood up and gave Arthur Miller a hard slap across his face. What makes me think I can compete with you? This company was my mother's dowry. After my mother passed away, your mother, with no shame, wanted to fight with me over it. Arthur Miller, you're a useless piece of trash. Stay away from me from now on. The next time I see you, I'll hit you again. Arthur Miller was enraged. Ashley Miller, you old spinster. Ashley Miller calmly ordered her bodyguards to drag him out and beat him until he apologized. I watched Arthur Miller get beaten and couldn't help but find it funny. He truly never learned his lesson. He was just as brainless as his mother. I just smiled and didn't say anything. The video of Arthur Miller being beaten spread all over the internet, especially the scene where he stuck his neck out and cursed Ashley Miller as an old spinster, which caused a heated discussion among netizens. I'm only 30 and I'm already an old spinster? Yes, being 30 is a crime. I don't even dare to leave the house for fear of running into people like Arthur Miller. Does he think he's so young? He's 32. Look at his wrinkly eyes and crow's feet. He's a perfect example of a playboy. Does he think he'll never get old? He even cursed his own half-sister. How can a piece of trash like that inherit the Miller family? Just a heads up, he's been kicked out of the company for a long time. The person who beat him was his sister's bodyguard. Just a few months ago, he was a high and mighty heir, and now he was a miserable person getting beaten up on the street. Someone even dug up the video of him chasing me before. Rumors spread that Arthur Miller was cheating and got caught by me, and I refused to forgive him, so he chased me and got stopped by the police. Then he was beaten because he was disrespectful to his sister. The news of Tasha Carter's pregnancy was also dug up. So she's a mistress trying to climb up to the main wife position. It fits. His mother was also a mistress back then. Now he's found a mistress just like her. His original fiancée was the beautiful and famous Ms. Miller. Men are really tired of the old and go for the new, but he's not worthy of Holly Miller. Netizens cursed him one after another. The Miller Company's stock plummeted. Ashley Miller had to step in to stabilize the situation, publicly announcing that she had kicked Arthur Miller out of the company. The Miller family will forever support the first wife and me. This move shocked and delighted netizens, and her reputation skyrocketed. Ashley Miller took the opportunity to get rid of all the conservative shareholders who had not supported her. Taking full control of the Miller Company, Mr. Miller had no choice but to hand over all his power and enjoy his golden years. Mrs. Miller was kicked out of the house and had to live with Tasha Carter in a small apartment. Tasha Carter still dreamed of a better life after giving birth, but she was sent away by the private hospital because she couldn't afford the hospital fees. Seeing that Arthur Miller had nothing, she completely collapsed. Right then, Mr. Miller's new mistress got pregnant. Mrs. Miller was so angry that she went to cause trouble and pushed her, almost causing her to miscarry. Mr. Miller was furious and immediately demanded a divorce. I'd rather start a new family than live with her anymore. Arthur Miller was completely abandoned. Although Tasha Carter was smart and had an abortion and ran away, Arthur Miller found out. Knowing that she had never loved him and just wanted money, Arthur Miller was so angry that he pushed her from a high floor. Tasha Carter, who had just had an abortion, was not prepared and fell, leading to severe bleeding, and she nearly died. Mrs. Miller frantically ran around, looking for someone to mediate, even kneeling and begging. Tasha Carter demanded a large sum of money and disappeared without a trace. When Arthur Miller was released from prison, he was emaciated, his face haggard. When he came to look for me, I was on a blind date with a man from the Johnson family. Seeing me sitting in the restaurant, laughing and talking happily, he completely collapsed and ran straight into the traffic. A car hit him and he flew into the air. From then on, he could no longer bother me. I turned my head and looked at the crowd gathering outside and heard the piercing sound of brakes. Couldn't help but take a deep breath. The man from the Johnson family asked if something happened. I just smiled lightly. Nothing. The man opposite me politely pulled out a chair for me, but I saw the mark of a wedding ring on his finger. Another man who already had a home. Oh well, I don't need dirty men, but if we're talking business, I can still consider it. Mr. Johnson, how about we make a deal? I took out a business plan. Feelings can deceive people, but money never does. Having endless money is my life's goal.